19, 25, and 30. My prayers are with their families. I can't even begin to imagine the grief. As it stands today, 17 American service members have paid the ultimate price for this war. 17 Americans, 17 families who won't sit for a meal with their loved one. I know I share this with 99 colleagues, that there is grief yet again hanging over the United States Senate, hanging over America, because soldiers who have sworn an oath to our Constitution, sworn to serve and defend this nation, have fallen. Several weeks ago, I had a conversation with someone who has been my colleague and is now the Secretary of State, and I asked about this war, and Secretary Rubio looked me in the eyes under oath and told me that the war is over. Several weeks before that, the President and his administration stood before the American people and told them we had won the war. I want to tell you right now that the soldiers that have died in this past week died in a war. And we are mourning this loss. This is not a left or a right thing. This is a time where we come together beyond anything partisan and understand that soldiers have fallen. 3 soldiers, possibly with a 4th, they were killed in action in a war that we've been told is over, in a war that I believe firmly should end. Their names deserve to be spoken on this floor and in the Congress of the United States, and I want to speak their names. First Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan of Hawaii. He was 25 years old. Private Isabel Gonzalez of Texas. She was 19 years old. Sergeant Michael Emmanuel Swinton of North Carolina, killed at Rubio Air Base in northern Iraq, 30 years old. 19, 25, and 30. My prayers are with their families. I can't even begin to imagine the grief. As it stands today, 17 American service members have paid the ultimate price for this war. 17 Americans, 17 families who won't sit for a meal with their loved ones. 17 lives that a nation cannot get back, no matter how many times we say it, the pain still lasts. And 17 reasons I believe the American people and the men and women who wear this country's uniform are owed more from us. We know in this body that every single day, and we're privy to information that every single day we go into classified settings and hear about the fact that every single day there are Americans standing up for our country in dangerous places doing dangerous things. It is one of the more sobering parts of this job to know that I bear a responsibility, along with my 99 colleagues, for those men and women who step forward, swear their oath, put on their uniform, and go all over the globe for us, under the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States. Now, the idea behind our democracy is that they don't go at the orders of their commanders, but they go to represent a country that has a form of government, a republic that is a nation of laws. They swear an oath to the Constitution, and we too swear that same oath. We stand right there in the well of the Senate, raise our hands, and we swear an oath. There's no measure of courage to do this job. Rarely have I seen senators face real imminent danger. And the truth of the matter is, the courage evidenced by men and women in a uniform should serve as an inspiration to us that maybe we are not putting ourselves at the physical test that they are, but we too have to make a decision to honor their courage with our moral courage. This week we learned, to my surprise and frankly inciting my anger, that the Pentagon severely undercounted the number of service members that were injured. We were told that over 400 service members had been injured since February 28th. Now we're learning that in the last 2 weeks alone, more than 100 more American service members have been injured in spiraling strikes between the United States and Iran. Some have been seriously injured, and some have already been back at work, many of them back in harm's way. I fear that we are seeing a pattern. The administration has not told Congress or the American people the truth about the cost of this war, nor the cost to our men and women who put on the uniform, not the cost to the military families who have family members in harm's way, or the 17 families who will not have family members coming home. And now we're listening to the Congress of the United States in both chambers. We've seen votes in majorities in both chambers to end this war, but instead of listening to that will, instead of listening to the American people in a war that is immensely unpopular, we seem to repeating over and over again what I believe is an unjust continuation of a war that is not upheld or supported by the law of our land or the Constitution we swore an oath to. This brings to me the urgency of this moment. And the death of more American soldiers highlights what we are doing here. History is looking at us in this moment. As right now, as we speak, there are people in harm's way. History is looking at us in this moment. How will our moral courage stand aside those courageous people who are representing our country? My heart is heavy, my spirit grieves, and I know I'm not alone. When deaths like this happen, we shouldn't just go on like this is normal. When people die in service of our country, in combat, we shouldn't treat it like another day here in America. It is not. So how do we express our commitment to country? How can it lie in congruency with theirs? How can we honor them in this body beyond condolences, thoughts, and prayers? I believe what the call of this body is in this moment, in the shadow of their immense brilliance, that we have an obligation to honor them, not with words, but in how we give the best measure of our devotion to the laws of our land. I find it unconscionable that the stakes are so high in this country, where we are spending tens of billions of dollars that factually could be going to our schools. Tens of billions of dollars could be going to our health care. Tens of billions of dollars that could be paying down our national debt. Tens of billions of dollars that don't just come out of nowhere, but they come from hardworking taxpayers who pay their taxes into a system that they put faith and trust in. And what's happening with this money that we're expending for bombs and missiles and planes and personnel? What's happening as we expend this money? Well, what is apparent to me is what is not happening. You see, our founders understood the nature of war, and they understood, in light of kings and queens and monarchs who so easily pushed their country into war with no consequence, how easily they put lives on the line, sent men and women into battles. It was such a significant understanding that they had that they said no individual should be able to unilaterally send our men and women, our children into war, that we should put appropriate checks and balances on those decisions. Our founders knew the consequence of war, the burden of war. They knew the hell of war. The tragic consequence to families, the pain and agony of death. And they knew that those decisions should not be made by an individual who might be overcome with some kind of ill-conceived notions and draw our country into war where we give the best of who we are. The best of America is not our wealth, it is the young men and women who hold the hope of America. And so the Constitution is clear. Do not let one person drag our nation into war. They took that power and placed it not with an executive, they placed that power with this body, with Congress, so that there would be debate and discussion, so that there would be arguments into the night, so that people would understand with the gravity of such a commitment that we would make sure that the will of the people would be the first decision makers for a war. And that any president that was conducting the war would not conduct it above accountability, but would have checks and balance. That's the Constitution of the United States. Those imperfect geniuses understood that in moments like this, when our nation is at war, where men and women are coming home not alive but in body bags, that we should honor them by making sure that the will of our nation was behind that war. And here we are since the end of February, month after month. Soldiers injured by the hundreds, lives lost. And the question is, what are we doing in this body? Have we granted the authority to the executive to go to war? No, we haven't. Have we exercised our constitutional authority? No, we haven't. Have we debated this war and had to make a decision by voting yes or no to allow the president to conduct this war? We have not. We have men and women who are fighting to defend our nation's laws and constitution, and here we're not living up to it. To me, that is a living shame that men and women are risking their lives for the Constitution we serve, and we can't even live up to the roles that we are to play within that constitutional republic. What does it say? That men and women are dying for this country, and we are not even living up to its laws. That men and women are paying the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, and we can't even stand up and do the specific duties spelled out by our country. All 100 of us grieve this losses. No one should say any different. I know my colleagues. There's not a person here that doesn't anguish over the loss, but that is not enough in this moment. That is inadequate when it comes to honoring these men and women. What this moment calls for is more than thoughts and prayers, more than the hurt and the grief. It calls for us to do our job. We owe it to them. We owe them truth. We owe them accountability. We owe them checks and balances. We owe them transparency. We owe them a government that lives up to its obligations. They gave the best measure of their devotion to the nation they loved. And their love was not mere words or symbols or salutes. Their words alone did not show their sacrifice. They understood to love your nation is to stand up and work for her, sacrifice for her, risk for her. And it's time for this body, the United States Senate, to honor those men and women by giving our best measure of devotion to our Constitution. This body must end this unconstitutional and unjust war. And if they are unwilling to do so, they should hold the vote whether we authorize this war. It has not been done yet. How many more men and women will die before we do our job, rein in this executive, hold him accountable, and bring an end to a war that our nation does not want to be in? Today, my thoughts and prayers are with their families. But I stand here as one out of 100 senators, offering more than thoughts and prayers. I yet again demand this body to fulfill its constitutional obligations and do its job.